The end of 2025 is right around the corner, and while we are currently at the end of the year, I want to share with you today, as every beginning of the month, my full investing portfolio update for the month of December of 2025. So as always, after sharing with you what are the different individual stocks and ETFs that I personally hold in my portfolio, I'll share with you what are the different sectors and how much money I've been able to generate completely passively from the dividend stocks and ETFs that I hold in my investing portfolio. And then we'll take a look at what are the multiple transactions that I've made over the past month of November. In terms of the technology sector in my portfolio, you can see that the picture remains pretty similar to what it used to be 1 month prior, where I still hold 4 of the big GAFAM, so Apple, Meta, Google, and Amazon, as well as Elon Musk company Tesla. In total, these companies are all worth a big portion of my total assets each, and you can see that they are also all massively up compared to the initial and the average price that I've purchased these shares. In the energy sector, I've also been able to make some great gains, notably when it comes to the 2 companies that I have, which are Enbridge and Pembina, so 2 Canadian energy businesses. In the case of Enbridge, you can see that I currently have over 10% of my total assets invest in this position, which is one of my strong beliefs position in my portfolio. And in both cases, you can see that the unrealized gain that I have on these positions is also pretty good. The picture is also pretty good when it comes to the 2 financial companies that I have in my portfolio, which is one of the largest Canadian banks in the form of the TD Bank, as well as one of the largest insurance companies in the entire world, which is Manulife, where you can notably see that both positions are worth about 7% of my assets, and where Manulife notably is a company in which I am able to reinvest every dividend that I receive, is currently up about 125% of unrealized gain on my average position. Unfortunately, the scenario isn't that great when it comes to the TELUS company in the telecom market, which is one of my worst performing company in my overall portfolio, where it is currently down about 30% on the average price that I've paid for it, even if it is still giving some great quarterly dividends to their shareholders. And it is also one of the reasons why lately I've also been thinking about potentially selling this position to take that money and reinvest it somewhere else. In the consummation field, you can see that I hold the Couche-Tard businesses that is currently worth slightly less than 4% of my total assets. However, despite making some great gains these past 3 years, where I've sold a certain portion of my total assets to make over 90% of unrealized profit on it, you can see that right now the stock's value has been on a decline since 1 year, where it's currently only up about 31% compared to my average price. Now, in terms of the only materials company that I have in my portfolio, it is the Savaria business, which is basically responsible for creating and manufacturing great wheelchair and stair lifts for older people. In their case, this company is only worth about 3% of my total assets, and it currently has some unrealized gain of about 42% while giving great monthly income to their shareholders. Talking about another monthly dividend companies, it is the Raucan business, which is a real estate investment trust that I personally have invested into about 3 years ago. And despite giving a great 6% monthly distribution to their shareholders, you can see that the value of it remains pretty stable, about 40% of unrealized profit. But my smallest position in my portfolio, which is the 5N Plus company, on its side has been exploding these past couple of years, returning over 300% of unrealized profit. Now, when it comes to another big important portion of my portfolio, which is the ETF sector, you can see that first of all, I am invested into the Vanguard S&P 500 Index ETF with the ticker VFV. And on their side, you can see that this position is representing about 11% of my total assets. And eventually, I want to increase that position to at least 20 to 30% of them. And at the moment, I currently have some unrealized profit of about 61% on that position. Now that we've tracked the most important 500 American companies, if we want to invest into the global stock market, the position that I've decided to buy is the iShares Core Equity Portfolio ETF with the ticker XEQT. On its side, this position is only worth about 3.5% of my assets, but eventually, as I mentioned in my previous videos, I want to be able to increase that ponderation to at least 10 to 15% of them. And right now, I have some unrealized gain of about 30% on that position. Now, to track the Canadian market, I have decided to invest into the iShares S&P TSX Canadian ETF with the ticker XIU. And on its side, this position is also only worth about 3.2% of my assets. But just like for XQT, I want to increase this ponderation to at least 10 to 15% in the near future. And in terms of the unrealized profit that I have on it, it is of about 41% right now. Also, in my RRSP, I have also decided to invest into the famous Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF with the ticker SCHD. On its side, this ETF that is tracking some of the largest dividend payers in the United States is having some unrealized profit of only about 14% right now. But eventually, I want potentially to buy even more shares of this company in my RRSP, knowing the fact that I'm not going to be taxed on the US income that I'm going to be generating in it. Finally, for my cash liquidity, I still use the Global X Interest Savings ETF with the ticker CASH. And on its side, this cash liquidity is basically used to pay all the different unexpected expenses that I could have, for example, with my triplex and with all my future renovations and my future real estate projects that I currently have on the table. So right now, I'm looking to increase this ponderation to close to 10% before the end of the year because I want to be able basically to put that money or put a certain portion of that money right at the beginning of 2026 on my mortgage. So this is basically going to be useful for me to potentially buy a sixplex in the year of 2026. But now if we look at the valuation of my investing portfolio, you can see that it is currently worth about $198,000. Eventually, before the end of 2026, I would like to be able to reach $200,000 worth in my portfolio because at the beginning of the year next year, I'm going to be using a certain portion of that money to put on my mortgage as I just mentioned. But you can still see that I'm currently up about 60% compared to the initial investment that I've put in that account. In terms of the ETF sections, you can see the 5 big ETFs that I have in my portfolio, which are currently up about 30% or about $12,000 compared to the initial price that I've paid for them. Eventually, as I just mentioned, I want to buy more real estate properties. So basically, what I'm going to be looking to make in the near future will be to sell certain of my individual stocks that I have in my portfolio and invest more in great ETFs such as VFV or XQT. But at the moment, you can still see that my ETF sector as well as my technology sectors are still the two largest sectors in my overall investing portfolio. And then the third and fourth largest sectors in my portfolio are the financial and the energy sector, notably with great Canadian dividend companies in it. And finally, we find the other sectors in my portfolio, such as the real estate, the materials, the consumption, as well as the communication sectors. Globally, however, you can see that the month of November has been one of the smallest months in terms of the dividend income that I've generated all over the year because I've been only generating about $136 from these companies and ETFs that I hold in my portfolio, notably with the payments of my liquidity reserve, Raucan, Savaria, Apple, and XIU ETF. So basically, it brings my year-to-date total income generated from my different dividend stocks and dividend ETFs in my investing portfolio up to about $3,184 for 2025. And here you have a closer look at what have been the different transactions that I've made over the past month of November, where I've notably bought more shares of cash to increase my liquidity reserve as I just mentioned. And I've also bought a few more shares of VFV, XQT, and SCHD. But now on your side, if you're looking to find other great companies that are currently quite undervalued on this crazy market, well, check out the video that's gonna be right over here to find them, and I will see you soon. Peace!